Hi, Rosa.
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good.
I'm here with Rosa. It's been a long time coming, but we're busy. She's way more busy than me, but it was we finally have managed to track her down, and she's going to do this interview with me. I'm super excited about it. And I'd like to introduce Rosa Sheng. FAIA is Principal and Director of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion at SmithGroup. She is also the founder of Equity by Design, EQxD, and 2018 past president of AIA San Francisco. Throughout the years, Rosa has led a variety of award-winning and internationally acclaimed projects while launching a national movement for equitable practice, just and inclusive design outcomes in the built environment with a focus on higher education, learning, and space resources for student success. Rosa has delivered continuing educational programs and thought leadership outreach featured in Architect Magazine, Metropolis, Wall Street Journal, TEDxPhiladelphia, South by Southwest, KQED, NPR, and Canned Lions. In
Yes.
in 2019, she was recognized as a Metropolis Game Changer. Yes.
Wow.
Welcome, I know exactly. That's pretty impressive.
It's pretty good. It's like, what?
It's even impressive to you, Rosa.
That's somebody else's bio.
No, it's yours. Oh, so I know, we're working from home, and how are you dealing with the whole working from home and COVID experience?
I think it's been a roller coaster ride of sorts, right? And so I think the cognitive dissonance is that on a day-to-day level, it's actually quite normal and mundane, if you will, in terms of the routine of making breakfast, making sure the kids are, on their virtual Zooms with their classes, and then going off to my own, meetings on, the internet and taking care of things virtually.
Mhm.
But then there's all the outlier things that are happening that are quite catastrophic. And then hearing about them and watching it happen. And then also the reminders that when you do go out in the world, you have to go buy food or supplies for home, that kind of wake up of this is not normal and life is not as we knew it, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
coming to acceptance of that, I think has been this year-long journey of we're never going back to the way things were before, right? So it's kind of this mourning of that. Even if we go back to something similar to it, I don't think we can remove the impact of 2020 and the trauma that it's had on us collectively and as individuals. But it's also an opportunity, I think, in a good way,
Yeah.
to say, what were we ignoring before? What were we complacent about? What were we taking for granted? Whether it's health or social justice, assumptions about, equity, or people getting a fair chance to succeed. And I think within that, there's been a reckoning of like empowerment as well, both in terms of the day-to-day work that I do as a higher ed studio leader for SmithGroup in Northern California, but also kind of a resurgence and shift of what we're doing with equity by design.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's kind of like, you think like, okay, we're doing this, we're doing this. And then sometimes like the realization of what we're doing is like, if you just start thinking too much about it, it's like
Yes.
your
You
head
can
is
get caught up
spinning. Yes. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
depression.
And it's
Yeah.
all of these like what if, and this constant, stressor, as far as just this underlying stress of the situation. Or a couple weeks ago, I felt like my jaw was out of alignment,
Oh, yeah.
and I was like, why does my jaw feel like that? And then I talked to my daughter, and she goes, oh yeah, because you're grinding your teeth. Now, my daughter always ground her teeth. She's always ground, even when she was little, she used to grind it. But it's like I never ground them like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's what it is. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, she's doing it too. And so is her boyfriend. But yeah, it's that grind if you're at, at night when you're kind of like relaxing, but it's still going through and your mind and body are processing everything. So,
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most definitely.
So is everybody working from home then at SmithGroup or?
Yes. Yeah, we do have site visits. Been out to the site a couple times, and safety protocol, the PPE, everything, and all our contractor partners are very diligent in keeping up with that, and it's been good. I mean, there have been cases, not luckily within our studio, but within the job site, right? And so when that happens, there's like a notification chain, and luckily that hasn't transcribed our team, but at least they're very proactive about it in contact tracing and notification.
Okay. That's good. And then you found a place to get away recently?
Yes.
We're all trying to get away to these isolated places.
Yes.
Yeah,
a retreat, and trying to get back to like the roots, so beyond just sustainability, thinking about resilience, and given all that's happened to our neck of the woods in California, especially this year with the fires, we had an opportunity to purchase a property, but it's a farm, and that part of it is something that I think intentionally, coming back to the land. I don't know if you've seen the documentary, The Biggest Little Farm, but that was an inspiration. It's about a filmmaker and his wife who buy a defunct farm, and then within the course of 7 years, they fix it up, and it's regenerative. It's not just an organic farm, but it's a regenerative farm where they've learned about, salvage, that you have to reinvest in the land. You have to put back into the land what you take out.
Yeah.
Which is like this fascinating premise, right? It's not just farm the land, take out, grow, and it's put back into the land, right? And
kind of the traditional methods that they've used for years, but then with agriculture being as a business and trying to use chemicals and everything to regenerate things instead of like doing the natural thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, because I bought these overalls. I used to wear overalls like when I was pregnant, I would wear, and then the little girl next door, right? She doesn't, they just moved in probably, I don't know, less than 2 years ago, but she's just at that age where, they'll just like ask or say what, anything, right? So anyway, she sees me out there today. She says, why are you dressed like a farmer? I was like, oh, I don't. I said, I used to wear them when I was younger, when I was pregnant, and now I said it,
I did too.
They kind of came, they're kind of coming back into style. I said, so I bought another pair, and she just like looks at me and she goes, my little toy Corduroy has those. And I said, oh yeah, Corduroy, the teddy bear. And she looked at me like, how do you know about Corduroy? How does she know anything about?
That's
right.
amazing.
She'll kind of bring up these things, it's that innocence when they're that age, when they think that like nobody else knows anything about their world,
Absolutely.
And I mean, it is just, it's just so cute. But she like looked at me like, how do you know about Corduroy? And I said, oh, like the little bear with the green overalls, and she still looks at me, and and her mom is like, yeah, that's the Corduroy that, and then she just like, what, she walks away. She's like, okay, and like she goes, we have to get back to doing things, and she walks off. So I mean, it is cute. So we're gonna go over the questions, and then we're gonna treat everybody to the holiday gift list of some
Yes.
gift ideas that we have for from the ARCA moms and other women architects. So Rosa, what are your first recollections of experiencing architecture?
Yes. You're bringing me back. So I grew up in suburban New Jersey, and so had a fascination with going through the model homes that were in our development. We ended up moving in as like one of the first groups into the neighborhood, and they're still constructing homes. So a couple of us around the same age would go and play house in the model homes, right, until we got kicked out by the realtors. Like, what are you kids doing in here? But I just remember, like, I loved being in there. I loved imagining, like, living in the different style of homes, right, and walking through the construction sites of the newer, sector of the neighborhood that was getting built. And that was a fascinating time. But that's what I thought architecture was. There in a nutshell, right? It was the tract homes and malls of America. Lived in an area where there was predominantly lots of forest and either strip malls or the internal mall that we all know and love from our childhood. And then my aunt took me to, when I was 11, she took me to China to visit my grandparents with my brother. And that was the first time I'd been out of the country. And it was an amazing experience because we went all over the place in China. We went to see the Great Wall, the Forbidden City, and they took us through the little neighborhoods at that time, which are mostly gone now, called hutong. So courtyards and alleyways and these intricate networks. And my grandfather was amazing. And he explained to me that, this is the Forbidden City was like intentionally built for the emperor, but it's not just about the architecture. It's actually capturing a civilization. It's a time capsule, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like completely just blown away by that. And it was like this profound impact that, somebody intentionally designed it and built it in a way that had this effect on how people lived and how people viewed, politics and policy, right? And yeah, so at that point I was telling everybody, I was like, I'm going to be an architect, and he explained to me what, who designed it, right? So I was like, I'm going to be an architect. And my uncles were laughing at me. They're like, yeah, you don't want to do that. I hear they don't really get paid very well. And they work long hours and low pay because they had friends who are architects. My uncle was a civil engineer. And so he knew a lot of architects, right? So he was just like, don't do it. But then on top, I was really indignant. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be an architect. And then he said the last straw was just, well, you're going to get married and have kids anyway. So what's the point? Why are you doing that? And I was so mad. I was like, I'm going to show you. You just watch. One day, I was just
I'm going to do both.
That's right. I'll do both. I'll show you.
Right. Yeah. I didn't hear any. They didn't really say anything to me about like not being able to be an architect. I don't know if they. I mean, I was always kind of like driven like that. It got like I would do what I was going to say. I was going to do, and it's funny because when I went back to for my 20th high school reunion, they kind of like looked to the valedictorian of our class. He was supposed to be an architect. He wanted to be an architect. And we had both been in the same drafting class. And then one of the guys that was in that drafting class came up and he goes, see, so-and-so is a genetic engineer, can you top that? And I said, no, I wanted to be an architect and I'm an architect. He said he wanted to be an architect and he's a genetic engineer. I don't want to be a genetic engineer.
Wow.
So they're like, well, you said that you were going to do what you were going to do. And I said, well, yeah, I did say, but there wasn't anything about getting married or having kids in that. And then, it's like people laugh because they're like, oh my gosh, you didn't want to get married. You didn't want to have kids. And you're like, you're married with like 3 kids. And I'm like, I said, yeah, that's how life goes sometimes.
That's very true. Very true.
Yeah. And how old were you when you went to China?
I was 11. It was just amazing. And the weird thing was last winter, I took my family back So 2 daughters and my husband and his parents came with us, and we actually made the pilgrimage to my grandfather's ancestral village, which is outside of Shanghai. And I didn't know this, but they had preserved like a historical preservation site, the Sheng family home, right? Just like I thought, oh, it'll be this, preserved house, but it became a museum. And then there was like this reading room that they had dedicated to my grandfather, and it was modernized recently, and they had just finished the project. And then they had preserved like most of the house and the gardens in the back. I was just blown away because I had this, I guess, third world view of what it would look like. And it was anything other than that, the way they restored it to its original. It looked like somebody could live there today, right? And it was just amazing. And it kind of brought me back full circle to that time that my grandfather was trying to inspire me, because it was, I think, deeply part of his family roots and that kind of respect for, design and how people live. And that kind of lived on. So it was really cool.
I think sometimes you just like, I didn't, my great grandparents built a house where I grew up, but they didn't own the house when I was there. So I didn't even know that they had that house. And then, but it's funny because my grandmother and I would go by on the streetcar, and I know that she pointed it out a couple times, but it just totally went over my head. As far as like her saying like, oh, that was her house, because I had never realized that they had actually built it, So I just thought that it was another house because we kind of lived in a similar house, but it was much smaller. That house is still there today. Of course, other things have grown up, around it. But So I mean, it's nice to look back, and I mean, and the person that bought the house, they're a psychology professor, and they've been, restoring it. So it's cool. So hopefully they, they'll never tear it down and do anything. But So was that when I saw on Twitter when you had the red pants?
Oh, yes.
That's a picture of you, right? Is that a picture of you? Yes. Okay.
That was at the ripe old age of 11. Yes. With my red pants.
Yes. Okay.
Some things never changed.
Yeah. Do you wear red pants now?
I have a lot of red pants now. I went through a phase of no red pants whatsoever for at least 30 years. And then I saw somebody wearing red pants, like, oh, it's cool again, right? I was kind of thinking like, oh, I was so geeky. I had these red pants when I was 11. Nobody wears red pants. And then there was a resurgence in the last, I'd say, like 5 years, right? So I was like, it's legitimate. But then I bought like 4 pairs because I was so excited and afraid that they weren't going to make them ever again, right? I just kept buying. Every time I saw red pants, I was like, well, who knows when it's going to go out of style again. So I might as well stock up and get some more. So yes, I have 4 pairs of red pants.
Okay. I didn't know that. I don't think, did I ever see you in red pants?
I've been wearing them. Well, when we started Equity by Design, it was a little bit of a branding thing too, because we picked orange as the color for the logo.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
And then, so I did have a lot of orange clothing, and when I'd go to speak at events, and then when I saw the red pants, I was just like, oh my gosh. So then I started wearing the red pants to major speaking engagements, and I just blew people away. I was like, okay, even if I don't feel confident, because this was another weird story. Like, I used to be deathly afraid of speaking in public, and they would never take me to interviews. And they told me, like, you can't advance because you can't get over this like nervousness hump. And then I practiced a lot. I like watched YouTube videos and all of that and recorded myself. But then part of it also was this like holistic experience of like, well, I'm going to dress the part. Even if I don't feel confident, I'm going to wear these amazing red pants, and everybody's just going to believe that I'm awesome. Mm-hmm. And then so I'll believe that I'm awesome because I'm wearing the red pants. If that makes any weird psychotic sense whatsoever.
No, I think it totally. But I mean, I like to dress.
It's like a suit of armor, right? So it's like Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I like to dress. It's something other than overalls, but I'm like saying, I said, you know what, I think I'm just going to get dressed up and walk around in a suit, and I still, when I have my planning commission meetings, I'm still wearing a suit, like sitting in my dining room, like, with the planning commission.
Oh, nice.
I said, gosh, I always wore a suit to the planning commission meetings. I said, I'm still going to wear them even virtually. I'm going to still wear a suit sitting here for the thing. Because that's
sadly nobody could see my red pants. I'm not wearing them right now.
Well, we have to, oh my gosh, we have to stand up to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Of course, like you can see everybody's and the head of planning like keeps saying like, yes, you have to stand up because the city council stands up, and we're like, oh, that's fine, but we're like, right, we're just so you just see everything.
Oh, good gosh.
I don't. And everybody else can too that tunes in, right? Because everybody, it's because the whole city or whoever. Which I don't know how many people are tuning in, but I doubt there are that many people that are tuning in. There hasn't been anybody that has wanted to speak, during the things, So
yeah.
So I doubt that there's even anybody watching. I think they just tell us that. Okay, so what are 3 classic buildings that you like and why?
Oh gosh,
it can be less or more,
Classic.
Not classic, classic, like maybe people would know. So it can be modern.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, it can be modern. Okay. It can be something that you would
our recent debacle with the U.S. government, right? Like classical.
No, I think classic, like what you would learn in history, architectural history. That's what I mean by like classic. Yes. Classic, yeah.
I think I mentioned my journey into learning about Chinese architecture, and my thesis was about going back to the roots, and they never taught about Chinese architecture or Asian architecture in the 5-year curriculum. So I found my thesis as the chance to explore all that. So I went back to Taiwan for a couple of summers and found a lot of research and books on that. So I have a proclivity to the connection of Asian architecture and Chinese architecture to modern architecture. Yeah. So that's one of my little finds. And even like, it wasn't Le Corbusier that came up with the open plan, it was the Chinese.
Well, right. It wasn't Elvis Presley. It wasn't Elvis Presley. It was, it was soul music, but whatever. Yeah.
Centuries ago, way before Corb. And then I think when I went to Europe for the study abroad program with Syracuse, I was really just connected with Italian Renaissance architecture and all the different proportions. It was just beautiful, natural, and it made you feel a certain way. And not to say that we're going to repeat that, but it's that essence of learning of like the materiality and, what was it about the beauty of it? Mm-hmm. And it was in the natural materials, and it was very simple, actually. It wasn't, gaudy, like painted stuff. It wasn't like, it was just the material itself in proportion with its context. And then on the modern side, or more modern side, or contemporary, I would say there is, I don't know if you've heard of the Grace Farms project. There's the pavilion, right? Yeah. And so that kind of speaks to me.
I haven't been there. Did you go?
Yes, I went. My in-laws live really close by, so we took the family on a road trip. I forced everybody to go with me. Everybody complained.
As you should.
On the way there, but when everybody got there, they were blown away, right? So, but that kind of speaks to a connection back to the land and the light touch on the land. Mm-hmm. And yes, it's a special instance where there's a foundation there that could afford to do it, but it inspires me that we can have a light touch on the land and still have beautiful architecture.
Yeah.
Hope that it's kind of broad.
Rosa, so was was it your grandfather?
Yes.
So is he famous?
He was famous in China and
Okay.
in surprisingly in France, in
Oh,
Paris, and he actually got a medal from Francois Mitterrand as kind of the Sino-Franco relationships, if you will, where he studied French and he wrote a lot of literature, a couple of books in French,
mhm.
and then he also taught there a few years, in a row, and he went to school there. So he was actually part of, at that time, it was there was a lot of exchange going on between like silk breeding culture. So he brought that to France, and then in exchange, he was learning, the French language. So it's a little quirky, but it's like, how did he get there? And so when he was honored in my senior year, he was honored with a medal, and from his university that he went to at this, it was in Montpellier, and we traveled with him to go and witness, like, because I couldn't believe it, right? That I was like, what do you mean you studied in France, in Paris? What are you talking about? Right? And then I saw all his friends and his students and their memories of him and the things that they did. They had this movable feast, like in the spirit of Ernest Hemingway, and they would gather on a weekly basis, and they would bring like a bottle of wine, a couple loaves of bread, cheese, whatever they had, and they would have these debates about politics and these like long-winded discussions, and they had these photos of him with the students back in the day. It was just amazing.
Mhm.
So I feel really fortunate. And he did write a book about our family called My Mother. So it was dedicated to his mother, but it talked about um, up to my great grandfather, and then down to like my dad's generation.
Okay.
And my great grandfather was actually an opium addict. That was like totally crazy. I
Well,
read the book
there are
recently.
probably a lot of people's
I was
grandparents.
like, oh my gosh. Right. I read the book last year. I was before our trip,
Yeah, but it wasn't it in
and
Coke?
it was opium at the time. Yeah, and
I
the
mean,
opium wars. It
Coca-Cola,
was.
but like Coca-Cola.
Oh yeah, it had right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, so there were probably a lot of people's
and
relatives.
he was. Yeah, it was crazy because he was really smart. He was at university, and in the book, my grandfather described the fact that he sold his like answers to the exam for opium, and it was just like crazy talk. So anyway, a little bit of dark history there, going into the closet. Oh geez.
Oh, no, I think that there's probably a lot of story. I know my grandmother would like tell these stories, right? Because she was born in 1905. So, I mean, when she was in her 20s, it was prohibition. So it's like they used to do a lot of like,
Yeah.
and then it was just kind of weird about how, like, like families would send their daughters off to like go party at the universities to like, for like the weekend. And I'm like,
Wow.
why would you ever do that? I mean, it was because
Right.
they wanted, right? Because women weren't going to college, but they wanted them to like go to
Very well.
yes. So I mean, so then she was like talking about how like, oh, I didn't know why like my friend kept on getting all these guys that were interested in me. And then she was like, oh, I found out why, because, right? And
Right.
it's like, so people say that like, oh, that stuff doesn't happen or it didn't happen before. I think it's been happening for a long time, right? You just didn't see it on social media.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, thank God. But anyway, so, ah, somebody had asked me like, "Oh, did you ever wear sexy clothes?" And I said, I don't know. I said I can't remember, and I said I don't think I have any pictures of myself in it. I said so. As far as I'm concerned, I didn't. Yeah.
Right.
Um. So, what do you like about being an architect?
Oh, wow. Um, I think it's the broad knowledge base that we get exposed to, and also a certain resilience and persistence to not give up, right? So, and you don't realize it till later, but when they break you down and they build you back up again in architecture school, it is to teach you resilience, right? That you're going to get critiqued. Somebody's going to tell you your idea is not good enough. And it's devastating the first time you hear that, because you just want to do something so badly and you want it to be perfect. But one, we never really get to perfect, and neither should that be the mark of our goal. But it's the process of getting to our aspiration of perfect.
Yeah.
Is the enjoyment. And so even like recently we did a bathroom renovation, and it was the challenge of it, right? That was the exciting part. It wasn't, I mean, it looks nice, it's done, but that isn't the best part of the outcome. It's the process, right? The problem solving, and at every turn there's like decisions to be made that and potential mistakes. And then with the mistakes, there's the how do we fix it, right? The oops, like, oh no.
Yeah.
But that's daily life. That's our, professional life, right?
Yeah.
And in that, I think that is a great foundation for life at large, that regular people don't necessarily get exposed to, but we have that privilege to have that foundation of resilience. Like, well, yes, life kind of sucks at certain points, but let's pick right back up, and let's not let it shape us.
Yeah.
And let's define a new future, a different ending, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people said like, "Oh, how are you getting through this stuff?" And I said, "Well, it's like a design problem, right? Like you're working, it's like you're given a problem, you're trying to like work out, but then like during, then certain things aren't working, so you have to like move things around, and then like during construction, or maybe things, are going to be too expensive, and you have to redesign it, And I said, and then you end up with with what maybe not with what you wanted in the first place, but that's, but this is like the kind of what you have at the end, so it's like constantly, yeah.
So that's what I love about architecture.
Yeah.
Or being an architect.
Yeah. So you worked on the didn't you work on the Apple building?
Yes. Yeah. So the first Apple store in Soho with the all glass staircase, and that was amazing as an R&D project. Never been done before. Luckily, got mentioned in the patent. Had the foresight to say, you know what, nobody's ever going to believe me, so I better make sure I get my name on the patent. Actually, help write the patent application.
Okay.
Yeah, because I had to help write the patent application. I was like, my name has to be on it. If you need my help writing it, and they're like, okay, fine. So
absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
So as far as Apple's patent,
yeah, it was assigned all back to Apple, but at least the credit was there, and they understood that part.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I mean it's like that's an iconic building as far as I'm concerned. For
yeah. And then I had worked on a couple more, and the last one I worked on was I worked on 5 in total, but the last one was the GM Plaza, the Cube. The first time around, it's on its like 4th iteration. they think it's an iPhone. They keep trying to do like 2.0, 3.0. I was like, it's a building. It's not an iPhone. You don't have to keep modernizing it. It was fine the way it was. So that was a great experience. And I actually was pregnant at the time with my firstborn, and finished all the way up to CD set. And then as it was going through like most of construction, I was on maternity leave. And then luckily when I got back, I went to the store opening and I brought the family with me. So that was super fun.
Yeah. I think I remember. It was a good time. I think I remember that story, right? Because
yes.
He asked you to be there because you didn't want to go or something.
I did want to go, but I had my family with me, and there was only one seat. right?
Okay.
So actually, the irony is that my boss at the time, Peter Bolin, was originally invited to go. I don't think I was intended to go on the original invite, but then I think he was getting an honorary doctorate from Rensselaer that evening and he couldn't go. And so there was an empty spot. And at the same time, I was saying to Steve, like, well, I'm not going to be part of Apple projects anymore. You know, I'm going to raise my kid and, you know, do something closer to home. And he was like, oh, no, you can't leave. But okay, well, why don't you come to dinner? Right. So it was this really last minute thing. But then he didn't expect me to say I couldn't
talking about
go.
Steve Jobs, by the way.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. It's like, you know, everybody knows this crazy story. And yes, so Steve Jobs, and he said that, you know, okay, but I only have this one spot. And he knew my family was there. He saw them walking around with me. But he wasn't being welcoming, you know, and saying, I'll change the reservation. And I said, I'm really sorry, I can't come. I'm sorry, but thank you. And then he was just floored because nobody says no to him, right? Nobody ever says no to him. And he gets very focused. So I was surprised. I thought, oh, I just missed a chance of a lifetime. And he came back again later in the day. This was the store opening. So people were milling around. Everybody's, you know, observing, checking things out. Who's going on, who's in there, you know, there are celebrities. And then he walks up to me again. He's like, okay, I got a spot for your husband, but you're going to have to get a babysitter for your kid. Thinking I was holding out because of my husband. And I was like, no, I couldn't tell him. I was like, I'm breastfeeding right now. I cannot, right? So I said no again. And I was just like, you're so stupid. Who does that? Nobody does that. You would have figured, you know, something out. But then at the end of the day, he came back again and he's like, all right, the kid can come. And then this weird, like, tough guy thing where he said, oh, but if she poops or pees or cries, she's out of there, you know, like a threat. And I'm looking at him like, was that really an invitation? I can't tell. And this photographer actually took a photo at the time. I had a sense that somebody was taking a picture, but I didn't realize it was this photographer and he sold the photo to Time magazine, and it ended up in a book post after Steve passed, in a memorial about Steve. And somebody's like, do you know that your Neil Pan actually. Neil was like,
okay,
your photo is in this Time magazine article about Steve. And I said, no way, this is weird. And of course, it was at that very exact moment where he asked me the last time. And I'm like pausing, but there's this intense stare in his eyes. You can only see the side profile of my face. So if you know me, you know it's me. If you don't, it's like, oh, he's just talking to a fan. And that's what it said in the Time blurb. It was like, Steve talking to his fans. It was hilarious. And Katie Cotton, who is his publicist, was literally biting her nails. If you look at the photo, I'll show it to you sometime, but she's biting her nails like, I changed the reservation twice. Do not make me change the reservation again, lady.
You should have said, like, don't worry if the baby cries, or, you know, I'll just breastfeed her.
Yes. I think he was, yeah. But she was the only child there in this now defunct, but it was a Japanese restaurant with a soba master who like handmade his soba, right? Spent all day making it, kind of thing. And he's vegan, so everybody ate soba, which is great. And she was on her best behavior. And it was hilarious. Everybody was just staring at her and not him.
Of course.
Yeah,
your baby's cuter. Maybe that's the real reason. That was the real reason he didn't want you. He didn't want to be
no attention.
Yeah.
Diverted. No, he was great about it. He said at the end, he's like, you know what? She's really cool. She could come to dinner with us anytime. As kind of like just affirmation of who he really was. He was just a really generous man.
Yeah. Well, that's a great story.
I got you off track, didn't I?
Pardon me?
I got you off track, didn't I?
So I have to put glasses back on to like read it because
I
but
do talk in
but then I
tangents.
can't. I
I'm
don't
sorry.
wear I don't wear glasses normally. I just wear meters for things. So then I have to take them off because everything's blurry. Okay, what would you like to say about the future of architecture?
Oh, wow, that's a loaded question.
Yeah. You don't have to say everything
If
about
I default to my like current answer, it's that we've adopted JEDI, which is adding J to the beginning of equity, diversity, inclusion, and it's not related to Star Wars. It actually has the intention of championing justice first and reminding people that justice has to come first in order to right the ship. And, you know, we've been talking about diversity and inclusion for a long time, but without the justice, we're just kind of, you know, treading water, if you will. We're not making any progress. We're swimming the English Channel. We're not making any mileage. So we need the J and then the E in order to get the D and the I. And so we've launched Equity by Design has a series, a 6-part series, and it's deep diving. Each time we meet in this workshop session, we're talking about the intersectional connections between social justice, health outcomes, climate change, and then how we practice. And I think we're at this really nascent point right now where we have to change in order to survive and be relevant as a profession, even more so than, you know, pre-2020, I think.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to explore that. We don't know all the answers, but we have this intuition that we need to do more than just what we're doing now or what we did before, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful. A lot of people are excited. Everybody's curious. People want to know more, and we're all growing together. And it's not that there's one expert in it. I think before you see a lot of people touting themselves as experts. I'm expert at sustainability. I'm expert at whatever. It's like, well, we're not experts. We're just here. We're curious, and we're here to help facilitate the conversation that we all need to be having. Right?
Yeah. And I think it's good, you know, I mean, in some things, right, right before it was like, oh, you know, women can't work from home because they have to be in the office, you know, and now it's like, okay, I guess, you know, we're past that, right? That we can work from home.
Yes, everybody can work from home.
Yeah, everybody can work from home. But then also it's the it's also the what do we call the how women are tasked more with the obligations of the household,
the cultural norms.
Yes. And so now we're also having to, you know, work from home, but then also be there for our kids. I mean, even, you know, I have college age kids, and it's like still, oh my gosh, they're in the house and I have to like deal with them and deal with everything else.
Yes.
You know? And right, you know, having college age kids not being able to go out and do a lot of things and, you know, and interact is also a stressor on everything. And then, you know, having somebody with a, you know, health compromised, you know, problem, and then, you know, not being able to take them, or being very cautious about how you interact, you know, with people at work or out in the environment stuff. So there's those things too, you know, and so much of that goes to the, you know, so much of that pressure is put on the woman. So it's like, I'd like to see, you know, coming out of this, you know, not just that women can work from home, but also that they're, you know, that it doesn't become that we're also increasingly, you know, that the woman becomes the income that can, you know, that can
the disposable,
the disposable
discretionary
income. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
It's a catch-22. Because we devalue ourselves as the secondary breadwinner, even though it's the lesser, more times than not, it's the lesser income, but it's still a valid and valuable contribution, right? And I think when we undersell ourselves, that starts the ball rolling, in perpetuity to never catching up, right? And so I made the decision with my husband that we were going to pay for childcare, and it was going to be expensive at the time. But in the end, I was going to keep my holistic value as a professional. We were investing in me. And I wish that more people would see it that way, is not that, well, in order to, I have to pay a caregiver 3/4 of my salary, and that doesn't seem like it's worth it. But exponentially, your salary increases over time, right? As you're working, the years that you take off, you are behind, right? When you come back into the workforce, and you never make that money back.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wish people would see that as like a holistic big picture. It's not just the here and now of the money you think that you're saving, or that it isn't worth it, but in that bigger sense that you're preserving your holistic worth.
Yeah. And then and what the person wants to do, if they want to go,
Right.
I always had a project going, even, I always had a project going, because I didn't want to like totally not do anything, even though, it is stressful to have your kids in the house and then also be working on things, just like, I've been working from home, for like 22 years, but it isn't any easier, but, also just the value, of the value that you bring to the table, and just being able, to be with your children, and say, okay, this is my work, especially, not only just for your daughters, but for your sons, to see that, that you are of value and, worthy of, so much in our, in our society. So it's,
Yes, I think we have to shift how women are perceived, even also in the workplace, because we end up typically taking on the roles that are seen as like housekeeping or the support tasks, and not in the roles of leadership or deemed of value, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's taken a lot of time for me to debunk those things, but also to remind others, like, don't sell yourself short. Don't do all the busy work. Like, it's not your job to do the busy work. It's your job to be part if you want to be part of the leadership.
Yes. Yeah. And exactly. I have a friend that heads up a big firm, and she never would take meeting notes. She just would never do it, because, she said, like, no, that's the job that they give to the woman in the room all the time, and so she never did.
Absolutely.
Right. So she's heading up the firm, but I can remember like what she said like years ago, and another thing, as much as the AIA is good with these certain things, it's like there's a lot of women that are in the AIA that we tend to like take on these roles, where we're doing a lot of work, but that means that work, we're not able to like spend time on our own projects and our own work, and then that's money that we're like giving up from us. So we're like in this volunteer situation where, we shouldn't, it's like, the thing is that the more that we volunteer, the less that our attributes will be seen, because it's not money that they had to pay somebody to do that work. It's just, we're just volunteering to do that. Yeah.
I think that's true, but we also should look at the opportunity for the volunteering, what it is, and making sure that, again, it's allowing us to be seen, right? Absolutely. If we're doing the volunteer work, it's not necessarily always the grunt work, but it's the leadership of planning a presentation or facilitating, that ultimately more people will know us.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to network more with others. So there's a trade-off, right? I would volunteer for things that I knew would end up leading to stronger connections with other people that I wanted to connect with.
Yes.
Or, in this case, it was like a greater calling to lead a movement that we need to change our profession, right? And I think everybody has a similar feeling, but to kind of help catalyze that, I thought that's worth the investment of my time.
Oh yeah, no, you're
So, yeah.
yeah, it's definitely.
Oh no, yeah, it's catch-22 because I understand, like,
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like we volunteer and it's just like, is it all worth it? Right? Sometimes I just feel like really frustrated with the whole process of volunteering, and then people don't, and we raise money, like we volunteer our time and we raise money for this organization, and like how sometimes is the organization supporting us back?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we always have to ask those questions.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then push on those things. I mean, I've when I did the when I was chair of the housing forum committee, I I kept on saying when we needed speakers, and I kept on saying, like, I think we should go by the rules of equity by design. I think we should go by the rules of equity by design. And I just kept on saying, and they kept on bringing up, right, the mostly male committee was like bringing up speakers. And I said, I think there need to be more women. And and literally one person said, well, we have two. And I'm like, there's 16 speakers. There's 16 speakers.
We have two.
And we have two.
We checked the box.
Right? I know, but it's like being on these committee and just like keep saying and saying and saying it. And it's
Thank you for being a champion.
Yeah, we need more speakers, So then we did get the speaker. Oh my gosh, why am I not remembering her name? I'm thinking Annie Ting, but it's not Annie Ting. I mean, it's Anne Fougeron.
Yes.
Another great architect.
That's right.
Yeah. So we had Anne Fougeron and we had Ingela Walrus Ritter.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. So we had, but it was like making, but literally I asked one person whose wife is an architect. I asked them, I said, well, do you know of anybody that we could ask to speak about? And he goes, well, I don't know any women architects in that capacity or something. And I was like, wow, like I'm like, you've never met any women architects beside the one you're living with, or like what exactly? So I mean, it's just where they say, well, I don't know any women that are, for, it was like, as far as like designers, like, I don't know any women designers. And I'm like, really? Like any women designers? I mean, at any point, or we still have to think about design, I mean, that was the thing that was
Binders full of women.
Oh my gosh. Exactly. And I was like, what? I said, what do you mean? Like, you can't, like, we still have to think about design. I'm like, what? You act like it's like they're.
Well, there's the creativity bias, right? And it's perpetuated
exactly
by that type of thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, nobody meets the caliber of the men who are creative, right? Which is perpetuated. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even
by the internet and everything else.
Yeah. Or any of like, oh, well, it's like, right, creative people, it's like they're mostly men because there's more testosterone. And I'm like, what? Like, when? It's like there's more testosterone, so it's like testosterone equals creativity or something. I mean, even all of the biological studies of like things like, oh, like what hand you are, and there's more men that are left-handed, so it's like, okay, I'm left-handed, so what, I'm like more masculine or something, and that's the reason why I'm allowed to be creative, or it's just, there are just all of those kind of
preconceived notions.
Preconceived notions. Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully, I'm positive. I mean, I've still always been positive about it. I mean, I think that things are so much further along than they were when I was younger and had kids. I mean, again, I mean, they kind of think like, oh, okay, you have kids. It's like you're no longer relevant. Or I even said it on Context and Clarity. Actually, I had asked somebody they knew of someone who could do some drafting. And,
Yes.
and, and the person gave me the names of like 2 men. And I said, well, do you know of any women? And he said, well, so he said, I hope he doesn't listen to this. But anyway, he said, I hope, he said, oh, well, I knew an excellent person, but they just had a baby. And I said, could you give me their name, please? I said, I went back to work. I wasn't working for the engineer that I had been working for. I worked for Gordon Polon, who does structural engineering in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And but there was an architect that I'd worked for, Ralph Metcher of Appleton. It was Appleton Metcher at that point. And so, everybody knew that that I'd had a baby. But 3 weeks after I gave birth to her, he called me up and he said, okay, do you still, so are you ready to go back to work? Because he had some consultant work. And, and the thing is that, 3 weeks is like, 3 weeks is really short. Like, I wouldn't recommend that to anybody, but for me, I was so worried that if I said no, that people would not ask me anymore. And and so I said yes, and it was fine. And I'm glad that people did realize that I was still going to be working after I had a baby, right?
Yes.
So we'll get there, right? We'll get there. So, is there anything else we're going to talk about the holiday items,
yes.
The holiday gift
Let's
items.
Talk about the holiday gifts.
Okay. So we asked the Mothers in Architecture group and the other group if there were any holiday gift items that were made by architects or women that that they would recommend for the holiday gift list. So typically I have a holiday gift list, and I try to put things on it that were designed by women or made by women, but it's really difficult to kind of find those things on the internet. I mean, there's like kind of, obviously there's Itala glassware that has been designed by different women, and there are those things, but these were kind of more kind of like the homegrown, which I kind of thought would be good for, kind of the work from home. And so things that, that women architects have made. And so, so one of them was the dovetail workwear, right? And then we had rough and tumble design, and these are all going to be, and then we had the, Marilyn Modinger's work. She has some merchandise out right now. And then one of my friends, she actually did some, she designed a flag that was flown in Rockefeller Center. And so they sent her back the flags that everybody could design for Rockefeller Center, but they sent her back the flags. And so she made scarves. And so she's selling these scarves, and then, the Dawn Zuber has earrings, right? And then we've got Laura Teagarden's book, which is, what is the name of that book? Like
it's an ABC, Architecture and ABC.
Yeah. And then the Juno Jones boots. Did you get the Juno Jones boots? Did you buy those?
Oh no, I have not.
Yeah. Well, I did it for the Kickstarter campaign, but I mean, I'm sure that we're going to get it at some point. But one of the things, what was the woman that, she had that amazing jewelry. What was her name?
Michelle Acosta.
Michelle Acosta, but did she do the, it was the stainless steel jewelry?
Oh, that I don't know.
I'll like
Dawn's earrings.
Yeah.
Or Christy Dedden's architect.
Is it? It's I got it. Oh, it's Folda, Terry Moore. Terry Moore's
Okay.
storyline, which is Folda. And I mean, they're amazing pieces. I mean, she has some really amazing pieces in there, which which I think she casts. I think they're stainless steel or and silver. It was really nice. And then of course there was Rachel Preston Prince's Gates of New Mexico calendars.
Oh, super cool.
Yeah. And then Rhoda Miller, she was recommended by Michelle Costa, and that was the breast milk jewelry.
Yes.
Yes. Which is,
they look like little pearls.
Yes, which is and so you and I had talked about it a little bit before we started recording, but so this breast milk jewelry, I mean, you have to see it because they're like Rosa said, they're like little pearls, and then the breast milk's dried into a powder and then mixed with resin, and then one of them, it's also of she combined like the two different birthstone colors of the kids and the breast milk into this jewelry. And let's see. And then I was also going to get my friend Carol Yu, who she was married to George Yu, who was an architect in Los Angeles, and he designed he designed stores for this one clothing line and I'll put it in. But anyway, his daughter Dara, he has a daughter Elena. We were with Elena, we had an Arca Mom group when mothers group when years ago, like 26 years ago in LA. So Carol was there with her daughter Elena, who's the same age as my daughter, and she's an artist, and she works for a weaver that's like out in Joshua Tree, the weaver artist. But their daughter Dara was actually one of the Master Chef Junior.
Oh,
So she was and now she's at the Culinary Institute in New York. But her name is Dara Yu, and she has these amazing baked goods. They're gonna see if they can't put something together to also put on this list that will kind of maybe be something in memoriam to her dad or something, something like that. They're gonna work on that so it's gonna be coming out like the Thursday, right, on Thanksgiving, the day before Black Friday. Apparently Black Friday is now 2 weeks earlier or whatever, like it started this last Thursday or last
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they started, I don't know, all the sales, right, they keep getting like closer and closer to
Halloween
or August, right?
Christmas in July.
Day. Yeah, exactly, July.
Bring back Christmas in July.
Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, I put it in the chat, but Aisha Dunsmore Bay, she has a t-shirt line, and she's a architect in Boston.
Okay.
So I put her in there. Oh, and then the whale t-shirts from Equity by Design. Yes, they're back on sale if anybody's interested in resuscitating the energy of Eat the Whale.
Yes. Yeah. So what are you going to do for Thanksgiving?
Oh, we're just going to hunker down. I think we originally thought we were going to get together with another close family friend of ours, but we were just like, you know what? The numbers are just going off the charts. Everybody's just hunker down and stay safe, and all will be well. We're doing Zoom Thanksgiving actually with our East Coast relatives, and it'll be fun.
Yeah. Which they probably wouldn't come. Do they typically come out anyway? Do they come out for Thanksgiving?
Oh no,
If you go back there?
we usually would stay out here for
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, and we'd have a tradition of going down to Monterey and going to the aquarium. And of course, we can't do that this year, so we're just going to hunker down. And
Yeah. I think that's one of the hardest things is museums and coffee houses. That was like the hardest thing for me to do because I love to just be able to go and get away to the museum and kind of
yes,
do it. And instead I just went away. I mean, I think a lot of people they're getting away to like national parks if they're going anywhere. So and that's kind of what I went to Joshua Tree,
oh nice,
and so that was kind of nice just to get away and into nature. I think we're also right. We're kind of
definitely, coming back to our roots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Pardon me?
Oh, thanks for having me on the show.
Oh yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Michelle.
Thank you.
And we'll see you on the ether.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
Thank you. You too.